So now we're going to show you visually. We're going to show you a little bit of how this worked, right? So you now know that I'm narrow combo, right? And I'm going to, I'm sorry? Yes, that's great. So I'm going to say that when I was in the Toolbox program, although she wasn't in my peer group, I got to know Martha and I really liked Martha. Right? So you get loose. Oh, loose. All right, there you go. All right. And I also, in my peer group was the famous name, Jean Williamson. And I was so happy because she was in my peer group. I couldn't believe it.
And I'm Alana Madison, and I met Meryl Como because she's my neighbor. And we both shared interest in the visual world.
Yes, and Alana's also my neighbor. And I met Margot up in Western Iowa. We were in a cooperative fiber studio together.
And that's where I met Meryl. I'm on the stage.
She was.
And I knew Jean from the fiber art world. And I've known Brenda for a long time, 20-something years.
And I met Adria because our kids went to Sunday school when they were 5.
But I just got to know Kathleen through our coaching group.
And Martha, I met you in the Toolbox.
And I met Martha through the coaching group.
Martha.
And I met Adria
Space.
through the coaching group. I met Adria in the portfolio review. Okay.
And Meryl.
I met Adria.
I met you in our space also.
I met Meryl at the Unitarian Church.
That's right.
Well, she and Meryl was a peer group that I wanted to be in. Lana, who's another great artist in Concord, she's a real estate agent. And I met Margot. Brenda and I were through the show. And I met you, Brenda.
All right.
That's good?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to start at the end with Kathleen Polk. Yes? This is, yeah, point you, or this is Martha Wakefield. Brenda Sirioni. Adria Arch. Jean Williamson. Margot Stage. Because lucky for them, they're traveling or so forth. So I'm going to ask some questions. Unless there's any questions at this point.
Who came up with that idea?
The visualization, Margot Stage. All right. So I'm going to ask. You don't all have to answer every question, but so if you want to answer this question, just sort of raise your hand. You know, what were your initial? Can everyone hear me? What were your initial hopes for the group, and would you share a hope that was fulfilled, and then also maybe one that was not? Anyone have an answer for that? Alana?
Well, actually, I'm going to rephrase it slightly. Because I think what I loved about the group is it evolved. So where we started, which was among a whole group of people that weren't just artists, I love the fact that it evolved into an art group. And I think one of my hopes was really that we could kind of hold hands with each other. Art in itself is a very solitary, or the way I practice is a very solitary practice. So it's really nice, and it's been very informative and helpful to me to have another group and to bounce off of.
Was there a hope you had that wasn't fulfilled? That
still doing? Technology stuff. I wanted the technology forever.
That's our year this year. Anyone else that wants to talk about a hope?
Well, I had heard about the group because friends were in the group, and I heard about Toolbox and the benefits that had, that they'd gotten from that. And I knew that I was not likely to do the Toolbox. And I thought that if I could get into the group, it would be a way for me to learn some of those skills that I didn't have, and I have. And as far as, there really isn't anything that, I mean, I have a lot of hope still, obviously, and a lot of learning and growing to do. I guess I want it to keep going and going and going. My hope is that we continue for years and years and years.
Kathleen?
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm probably the newbie in the group. I think I'm the last one to have joined. And as an artist, you know, you can have critique groups and meet with other artists and get an idea where your art is going. But what was really missing a lot in my life was, who knows about the business? It's gotten so confusing, the social media, how you promote yourself, that whole thing. And there's no place to really go to talk about that and exchange with people. So I heard about these people at this group that was sharing information and encouraging each other in promotion, in figuring out websites, blogging, all this kind of stuff. And that's the reason why I wanted to join this group. And we do that, amongst other things, which we'll get into. But that was my motivation, that's what my hope was. And
Who here gets overwhelmed by the administrative part of being an artist?
Life, more of life, right?
And who here considers it a business? Who thinks about it as a business? Can I? Yeah.
I also was part of the group from the beginning, so saw the evolution of a very interesting group of people. And we first were sort of framing it as a coaching group for life and work. And if your work was art, then that was that, but if your work was something else. And it was so interesting to watch how it was the artists that were the most steadfast, and the other people sort of dropped away. And I think, again, it spoke to the need that so many of us had for a sense of community and a sense of peers, you know, to be in this process of making a life as an artist with other artists. And so I feel like my hope for that sense of community with my peers has been realized. I think, just to introduce a little element of criticism, self-criticism, there is so much for us to deal with as a group, so many topics, so many things, so many, that I feel like one of my hopes to be a little more disciplined has not been realized. We can get waylaid. We can never finish the Jackie Battenfield book. You know? So I mean, just
and I would say that if you do form a group, that will be one of the tensions. There will be people in the group who really prefer a very loose structure, and there will be people in the group that prefer an agenda and sticking to the times of the agenda. And navigating that is an important thing for you as a group, to figure out how to do that and honor different people's styles. We've come up with sort of guidelines for participation. We found that that was helpful, that clarified things. Out of this group, what guideline do you think is important?
Showing up.
Sorry?
Showing up.
seriously, that's been a huge thing in this group. It's like any other book group or anything else. If you're only coming every once in a while, you lose the cohesion of the group. So and the continuity. And then you somehow fall outside of that accountability that we talked about. So believe it or not, attendance was a really huge part of it. For me, being the newer person in the group, insecurity as an artist is a big issue. And when you're checking in every month, and when all of those people are exhibiting, getting into publications, being invited to speak, and you're not, I mean, I tell you, that's really feeling insecure. And it's really hard to handle it. So believe it or not, the confidentiality and total honesty, not just saying it, but really swearing to it, writing it down, made an enormous difference to me in being able to express what I'm feeling. Let's change the way that we check in. All you guys are doing, listing off your accomplishments, and I'm feeling horrible.
And Kathleen brings up a good point. We actually write our guidelines out on the side. So there's a big sheet where everyone, it's almost like a contract with each other. I agree to these guidelines. And every year we review them and see if they need to be changed in any way. And sometimes they do.
Oh, go ahead, Jean.
I like it when we check in at the end and we have, 3 to 8 minutes to talk about all the things we're doing. I know you felt like it was bragging.
Initially.
I loved it because I like to hear like all the successes or frustrations everybody's had because I learned from it. Like someone will say like, I'm gonna send out portfolios to art consultants. I'm like, oh yeah, I should think about that. Or I got in a museum show. Oh, that is so cool. So I didn't look at it as bragging at all. Every now and then.
Because you knew each other.
No, stop. I didn't know everybody. For me, it didn't feel like bragging, and for me, it just felt like, like just a really good way to like think of how other people are thinking. So maybe I would start thinking in similar ways too.
But it also can be like a kick butt session.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't I doing these things? Let's get off, and get going.
The thing that's so frustrating about the art career is that there are no rule books and there's really no guideline. I mean, we're all making it up as we go along. And so, having this place where we each exchange information, it's so invaluable. You can read all the books in the world or go to all the classes in the world, but it's not the same as having people holding you accountable to what you say you want to learn.
And also
where you wanna go.
holding your hand, too.
Yeah.
And I think Kathleen's point is well taken. I mean, I think it cuts both ways. This really isn't one of the guidelines per se, but it's perhaps one of my strongest observations of the group is that there are nights where I can leave and feel deflated because I feel like I'm not doing enough or I'm not keeping up with everybody else. And there's other nights where I leave and I feel totally buoyed up by the support of the group. And I think it does cut both ways. And as it probably, yeah, and right. I mean, I think everybody experiences that, both sides of that same coin at different times. But in the end, the fact that we're there for each other is pretty astounding and makes a huge difference.
It's not just about what you're getting. What am I offering the group? So that's my next question. What do you feel like you offer the group? And can you give a specific example of something you've received?
I used to be in the garment industry, and I used to sell a national branded line of jeans to retailers. And it's so easy for me to go out and sell a pair of jeans. But for me to sell myself as an artist and sell my work, forget it. It's like, I can't talk. And this group has really motivated me to be, say, I'm an artist. And this is what I do, And that's been very important for me.
I've gotten both feedback on the specifics. I mean, one of the things we do is we bring in our resumes and we review each of one of us, our websites. There's different, so on a very specific level, I've gotten that. But I think there's more general, which is that general sense of support in the navigation of when I'm off base or when I'm on base. So it's kind of like maybe this isn't the show that you want to say yes to. And people who I feel like have over the years gotten to be more familiar with where my goals are.
Often at the beginning of our sessions, we'll go around the room and each person will take between 3 and 5 minutes to talk about, initially it was talking about what you've accomplished in the last month. And sometimes it did feel a little bit like, it felt like bragging. And that's really a funny place as a woman to feel because we're not used to, our generation, my generation is not used to sort of saying, look what I did. I mean, we're always saying, no, you don't do that in public. You don't say how great you are. But, really, the culture has changed, we've changed, and the art world has changed a lot, and you really do need to acknowledge to the public and to each other that you are doing things, that you've accomplished things, and do it in a way that isn't bragging, but it's just sort of putting it out there, and also helping you to look at it and saying, wow, I really did accomplish a lot. So at any rate, 3 to 5 minutes, each one of us would go around the room and say some of the things that we'd accomplished that month. And as Jean said, it did two things. I mean, it can't feel like, oh, I'm not doing as much, or wow, you know, I'm actually doing pretty good. So it can, you know, it's a funny, I haven't had an easy time with it. So at any rate, 3 to 5 minutes of each one of us talking.
One thing that check-in offers us, I think, is a chance, as you said, to sort of evaluate, well, what have I done over the last month? Because it's so easy to lose track in the ongoing flow of you know, life and work, and it's a chance to sort of step back and say, well, what really have I accomplished? And at one point, we were doing highs and lows for check-in, so you know, a highlight of the month and a low point of the month. And another point, we were doing something that we wanted to ask for help with. Mm-hmm. So we've done a variety of different ways to check in.
All right, can you name an activity, like a workshopping thing that we did that you enjoyed?
No.
I'm thinking of Facebook. Drudgery. We did Facebook one night. Oh my God. It was, at one point, somebody was looking at somebody else and we're all just like, what did she say? What? We all had our computers open. We're all, yeah, like one or two of them know what they're doing and the rest of us are just like. And Margot.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Nobody can help me with Facebook.
I'm a lost cause with Facebook.
But you know, Martha tells me Facebook's on the way out, so.
I think artist statement has been very helpful.
The artist statement.
Writing an artist statement is one of the hardest things for an artist to do. I struggle with mine. I think I rewrite it almost every week. But to take your artist statement to a group of people, and a lot of us are very good writers. What a gift to be able to just put it out there and have someone, first of all, edit it and make it sound good, and then look at your work and say, well, no, that's not really what I see in your work, and you know, having to take it back and say, yeah, maybe you're right. So it's been very good. It's been invaluable.
Yeah, we actually, when someone would bring their artist statement and someone else would read it out loud. You know, so it allows you to hear it, how someone else is reading it. You know, how they're perceiving your sentence structure and everything. Where do they put the emphasis? Is it really portraying who you are?
Yeah, there was an exercise that we did which was really interesting, and that's where we had, I think we selected 2 each time, and so if it was Martha and Brenda, we looked at their websites, and then we would come up with 4 adjectives that we saw that would describe each of their works. And then when we got together, they would receive from all the rest of us 4 adjectives. And it was really stunning. When you ask other people to think about and come up with 4 adjectives to describe your work, and 7 out of 10 of them say geometry or math, you know, it really tells you something about how people are seeing your work.
A lot of the times we're not talking about each other's work, per se, as we're talking about the business of being artists. And one of the things about this show was it was such a fabulous opportunity, I think, for all of us to see all of our work in the same space.
Yeah.
And
or to see it.
And to see, but see it beyond on the website, yeah. Well, we go to a lot of each other's shows and stuff, but I think to see everyone's work in the same place at the same time, because we're not a crit group, so we don't focus on each other's work as much as we focus on what we're trying to accomplish as artists, or sometimes technical stuff that we've gotten stuck on with our work, like your whole thing, Brenda, with you know, the backing of the before you were doing before you were working on boards,
yes,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I would say one of my favorite activities was actually one of the things that you have to navigate as a group is what are the subgroups that are allowable. So you don't want people to feel left out. If they feel like other people are friends and they're seeing each other outside of the monthly meetings, how do you keep those people feeling like they're part of your community? At the same time, honoring your one-on-one time with your friend who's in the group. So sometimes we have talked about, you know, what is allowable. You know, can small task groups meet about a particular topic? Can small groups meet and critique each other's work? And small groups meet and discuss marketing plans, you know, that, and we do allow that. And one thing we did once was a smaller subset, I think 7 out of the 10, as a group, hired a professional critique person, Rob Siegelman, who does critiques, and that was super fun. Even people who didn't want their work critiqued came and listened and participated. So we had this whole like Saturday or Sunday or something where everyone brought their work to some studios and we had our work critiqued together. To me, that was really fun.
And every once in a while we do a field trip.
Yes.
A different group. We get lost going somewhere. If Adrian's driving. But that's also something that's been a really fun part of the group. Is
Yeah, you can't hurt artists.
Splitting off, right? You can't hurt artists, but to go see someone's installation or to go see a certain show or something. So that's been a lot of fun.
And I think for me also, the ability to done quite a few exercises about sort of envisioning what we want in the next year and the year after that. And sort of that ability to sort of dream big and then to step it back. I think it's been, for me, it's been fun.
That's what we call it, dream big. It's like an exercise. We call it what? Dream big. And it's a whole exercise. You could do it in a variety of ways. You know, sometimes people write their obituaries. Sometimes people write in the past tense from an age that's 20 years along. So you say, I have, and you just start writing like as though that was your life. So, and there's, you know, on the internet and stuff and at books, there's lots of exercises and activities that you can do together as a group that help you learn about each other and think about your careers.
Mary, I think that's a good point too, to just make sure that people know that this book that we're talking about, Jackie Battenfield's Artist Guide, is really invaluable. It's like a Bible because you can go almost chapter by chapter and you can get your own group started that way. It covers a lot of and in fact that's how we really started.
We only made
Jackie,
We only got to chapter 6
here too.
That's how much in it.
So I hear people saying, you know, asking, Jackie Battenfield? Yeah. Field. Jackie Battenfield. Some of us had went to see her speak. Yeah. So we purchased her book and we did use the first 2 chapters.
And she was on Facebook. You can friend her on Facebook.
Yeah, she's friend her on Facebook.
What's the name?
The Artist Guide.
The Artist's Guide.
Did you really?
So I'm curious, what benefit or experience did you get, receive, have, that you didn't expect? What was a surprise?
A show.
A show. We did not plan this at the outset.
As a matter of fact, when it got brought up like 2 years ago, everyone was like, no. Remember that? Yeah. Maybe you weren't there that day. Yeah.
I would never say no.
That's not my nature. Anyone else?
I think there have been a lot of connections, teaching gigs or exhibiting gigs because people knew other people who knew or heard of things. I mean, that's the most invaluable thing for me. Is really, you know, 10 times everybody's connections just it's got to be good for every one of us or any of you who start one of these things.
And we have an email list, we have a Google group list, and so, you know, someone will say, here's an interesting article, or I got this email, do you think this person's for real, or do you think this show's worth doing, or you know, send your work to so-and-so who's looking for work to purchase, or, you know, so I really like that. I like paying it forward, I like being the receiver of it too. You know, we you know, really use that well, I think.
Yeah, do you understand what she's saying? Because it really is, I think, integral to what we do. It's the communication, how we stay together. We have a Google group, which means that we have one address, so we don't have to email everybody. You know, we have a group of
We used to email each other, but
Yeah,
sometimes
you get
there
dropped
would
and
be 8
get
people
done.
on the list, and then there would be 10, and then there'd be 7, we'd forget
Right.
somebody.
So as a Google group, we have one address, and then it goes out to all of us through that, and then you can go back to the Google group and see all of our messages and our information. At one time, we were more disciplined, and we actually had docs with our minutes and everything. We've tried different organizations, but that
We'll get back to
really, we'll get back to that someday.
So when you hit reply to the Google group, it goes to everyone as well. So, you know, someone will send out, you know, NEFA is doing a workshop on grant writing for public outside installations. And someone will send that out and say, anyone want to go? And then, people will respond to the group and you'll go, oh, good, then we could carpool. So it's been very helpful to have that one way of communicating with each other.
So I have a really personal question. Has there been a time when some member, and it could be someone who's no longer a member, whatever, has like had a real, like an emotional, angry issue where it's like things are happening?
Oh, you mean at the group or after the group?
Within the group, within the group.
I've
Has
gotten
that
phone
ever
calls,
had,
people have been like, I'm not gonna say, this is
I'm leaving
life.
this, I think people are not. So have you ever had things come to such an emotional head? And
We have
you
not
had
had a meltdown in a meeting that was angry.
Just after.
We might have had tears over something in the meeting, but I wouldn't say there's anyone in this group that has a huge temper.
No, but if somebody has a real personal issue that needs to be shared, the group will, regroup and be open to that, and whatever is said in the group stays in the group. So it's been a wonderful, emotional supportive group when it's really needed by a member. So.
And I will really emphasize that because we have, remember I told you that was important as part of the bylines for us, that confidentiality, which means that you don't go outside of the group and talk to somebody else about what's going on in the group, because that's a really great way to undermine the group support.
So have you guys heard about triangulation? No. So when we're in a group, we've talked about this in our group, when we're in this group together, and someone says something, say Margo here says something that bothered me, and I get home and I call Alana. And I talk to Alana, wham, 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 Margo, wham, wham, wham. All right? So Alana's going to be nodding her head, right? She's going to be like, so, and I'm going to think, she agrees with me. Margo is bad. Or the other thing I could think is, oh, I feel so much better. I feel so much better. I've gotten this off my chest, whatever, blah, blah. In the first one, I'm putting her in this position where, I'm thinking she's agreeing with me when she may not, right? She may just be letting me blow off steam. And the second one, I'm not in an authentic relationship with Margo because I've blown off steam with Alana. So I'm not telling Margo how I really feel. I'm never going to get to the next point with Margo. All right, so, that's a hugely simplistic explanation for triangulation, but we do try to avoid triangulation. So if you have a problem with someone in the group, you need to say so in the group. That's a goal.
So it's not high school,
No.
but there's homework. It sounds like there's homework. I have a question about what's happened in the last 10 years, say in the art field, say in Boston, LA, New York, Brazil. A lot of galleries have closed in the city. And have you found that gallery owners are demanding more from you to be in, like blogging you mentioned and LinkedIn? Are they demanding you to put out yourself like that?
So are you asking, is that why we meet?
Well, no, just how do you represent yourself to the say Clark Gallery, Dana, or to anyone? Does it change in 6 months, say? Does it evolve?
I would say, yeah. Well,
I'm not sure if I quite get what you're saying, but can I interpret, I think, what you're saying? The world has changed.
Yeah.
And when I was with the commercial gallery, I was still expected to be promoting myself. I don't think that you can ask a commercial gallery to do all the promotion for you. They just don't anymore. I mean, I used to be, when I had galleries in the Midwest, they'd give me residencies, they'd get my stuff into museums. They don't do that anymore.
Why is it changing, you think?
Oh, the market's
Yeah,
changed.
the market
has changed.
If you look at Dana's schedule, I mean, he would not have the time, with all the things that Dana is managing as the director of Clark Gallery now. He really doesn't have the time or the connections to pull in the people who are going to buy your work.
And don't you think
I
that
mean, he's got some of it, but some of that has, now, and the gallery situation is much more collaborative.
I think the technology has changed the art world tremendously. The way people use the internet, the way people buy on the internet, all of that social media stuff has totally changed the, what's it called, bricks and mortar, you know? That's how I see it.
That's a great topic to have, is to talk about in your coaching group.
Yeah, and that comes in, that really does come up a lot in different ways with us, because I think that we all recognize that really as artists, you have to be out there promoting yourself. You have to, in one way or another, but you don't have to do all the social media, but you do have to find out what will work for you, because that's kind of what's happening. Even when you get around to applying to competitions now, so many of them are moving completely into the digital submission. You've got to keep yourself up with that. So it's, I think there's a lot more on the shoulders of artists than there ever was before.
And I think we are small business people, really, and to really try to train yourself to think of yourself as a business person. You know, that's a whole new way of thinking about yourself as an artist.
You do.
You have
It sounds so, doesn't that sound frustrating to you? Because you're a very analytical group, and you must get really frustrated, no? Because you want to do your art.
Not as frustrated as we were before we had the group.
Right. Very true.
All right, any other questions? So, feel free to, I'm sorry.
We have one more, sorry.
Meryl? Okay, two more. Okay, go ahead.
When you were setting up the group, so two of you said we'd like to start a group. In what fashion did you bring in other people? Was it everyone gets to, each of us gets to choose 3? Or was it more,
I think it was more organic than that.
Organic.
I think there probably were, like at least, there were a whole bunch of people that I knew that were interested. And then, everyone had people who were interested. So the initial group was like, bam, 16. Like, it was such a popular idea. It's really having to add new members that's even trickier. When people realize it was not the right group for them or whatever, and then we brought in some new members, then how do you vet that new person?
How do you
So, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
how'd you guys decide on me?
So, it is, you do have to have, and actually, I think one of our guidelines is, I think the last one is something to expect that when we have to add someone new, we will revisit this again. Because every time it's a little different. You have a different take on things, or different chemistry in the group, and, we'll be talking about it again. I'm sure we'll be talking about it again.
So if you wanted to start a new group, how would you go about, put up a sign at the front door here, or?
I do think that, the Danforth Museum actually has talked about running it, having me facilitate one actually, so that, because it is hard for you to know who to ask, right, to be in your group. But I think if you can get like 4 people discussing this idea, and each of them asks 2 people or whatever, you will get your initial group. And then your initial group, you're going to want to do some brainstorming about what is the group interested in being with each other, what does the group need to learn, how often do you want to meet, do you want to meet during the day or at night, and that group will whittle down a little bit, because people, someone teaches on Wednesday nights for us, or something like that. So I think you have to, it's a risk. You have to put yourself out there, you have to be willing to meet people you don't know, and try something out. And see if you can get your group's structure and what it does together to reflect the group.